Legends often fade with time. Stories passed down from generation to generation begin as truths, become myths, and finally drift into whispers no one believes. In the grand expanse of the galaxy, humans were such a whisper. To most, they were nothing more than bedtime tales told on distant colonies, no different than monsters in the dark or shining heroes from forgotten ages. The Dominion and the Conclave, the two most powerful coalitions in the galaxy, certainly did not believe in humans. They were far too busy tearing each other apart in their endless war. For over 200 years, fleets clashed in burning skies. Soldiers marched across ruined worlds, and entire civilizations were forced to pick a side or be swept away. In this chaos, few paid attention to the small, neutral species that survived between the cracks. The Deleth were one of them. They were not warriors nor conquerors, but curious explorers. Their thin, feather-like bodies and enormous, luminous eyes gave them a delicate appearance, but their strength lay in patience and careful observation. Unlike the great powers, they sought not war but knowledge. It was the Deleth who would stumble upon the forgotten secret that would shake the galaxy. The Discovery. The Deleth science vessel. Arithis floated quietly above a silent world, cataloging its geography. The planet was unremarkable at first glance. Gray deserts, rocky mountain ridges, and frozen seas locked in eternal ice. No life stirred on its surface. No lights gleamed from its dark skies. To the crew, it was another nameless wasteland in a long list of abandoned worlds. But then, a scanning officer spoke up. "There is something beneath the surface," he said, his voice trembling. "Metallic structures. Too organized to be natural." The captain, an elder Deleth named Thalon, adjusted his viewing screens. "Structures? This planet is supposed to be barren." The scans sharpened. Beneath layers of rock and ice lay vast complexes of tunnels and chambers. Some were broken, collapsed with age, but others remained intact. Energy traces faintly pulsed within them like dying embers refusing to fade. "Civilization?" one of the junior explorers whispered. "Impossible," said another. "No known empire has claimed this system. These ruins must be ancient, very ancient." Still, curiosity outweighed doubt. A landing party was dispatched. The ruins. The explorers touched down near a jagged canyon where part of the underground structure had cracked open to the surface. What they found made even their seasoned captain fall silent. The walls were lined with smooth metals and strange markings, lines, curves, and symbols, unlike anything in the Conclave or Dominion archives. Faded murals depicted tall figures with round heads and expressive faces, always standing in groups, often smiling, sometimes carrying strange tools. "What species is this?" whispered a crew member, tracing the symbols with gloved fingers. The Deleth scanners translated one inscription. The word that appeared on their visors made their feathers stiffen. English. The captain repeated it aloud, tasting the unfamiliar sound. "English. I have heard this word." "Yes," another answered hesitantly. "It is from the legends. The ancient race. Humans." The team exchanged uneasy glances. Everyone had heard the tales when they were young. Humans, the restless explorers who once roamed the galaxy in fragile vessels of metal and fire. Humans, who could adapt to any world, who forged alliances through spirit rather than strength. Some stories painted them as heroes, others as reckless wanderers who burned too brightly and were gone too soon. But they were just stories. Weren't they? Awakening deeper within the ruins, the explorers uncovered rows of smooth, coffin-like chambers lined against the walls. Their lids were translucent, coated with frost. Inside lay figures. At first, the Deleth thought they were statues. Pale skin, closed eyes, fragile limbs. But when their scanners passed over the chambers, life signs flickered, weak, fading, but still present. "They are alive," gasped the medic. In suspended stasis, the captain's feathers flared in disbelief. Impossible. No species could survive so long. And yet, as they wiped away the frost from one chamber, the face of the being inside became clear. Round, soft features, short hair, a faint scar over the brow. A being so different from the towering aliens of the galaxy, and yet unmistakably real. A human. The silence was broken by a low hum as one of the stasis chambers stirred. The lights flickered. Machinery long dormant shuddered back to life. The figure inside twitched. His eyelids fluttered. The Delith stumbled back in shock as the chamber opened with a hiss of cold air. The human gasped and coughed, his chest rising sharply as he dragged his first breath in centuries. His eyes darted wildly, confusion painted across his face. Where am I?" he whispered hoarsely. The explorers stared. The legends were real. Whispers in the galaxy. When news of the discovery reached the galaxy, it spread like wildfire. At first, no one believed it. Reports of humans alive were mocked as desperate fabrications by a minor species seeking attention. But when the Conclave received a sealed data core from the Delith, filled with scans, recordings, and images of the awakened human, disbelief turned into uproar. "The myths walk again," murmured one Conclave elder. The Dominion reacted with scorn. "They are relics," their warlords declared. "If they ever lived, they are too primitive to matter now." And yet unease lingered, because deep within their archives, even the Dominion carried stories of humans. Tales of battles fought not with overwhelming numbers, but with cunning tricks, reckless bravery, and impossible victories. Now the galaxy whispered once more of those forgotten beings. And the whispers grew louder when more stasis chambers were revived. Men and women awoke, frail but alive, carrying within them memories of a civilization long erased from the stars. The first conversation. The first human they revived was named Captain Elias Ward. His voice was rough, his body weak but his mind sharp with questions. "Who are you?" he asked the Delith who tended him. "We are explorers," Captain Thalen replied gently. "You are human?" Elias nodded slowly. His eyes scanned the alien's features, showing no fear, only wary curiosity. "Yes, human. We thought we'd lost everything. How long has it been?" The Delith exchanged uneasy looks. They could not answer. How could one measure the weight of millennia? "Your kind," Thalen said carefully, "were thought to be legends." Elias gave a broken laugh. "Legends? No, we were just people, trying to survive. Fragile yet unyielding. The Delith expected the humans to collapse into despair. After all, their cities were gone, their history erased, their place in the galaxy forgotten. But instead, the awakened humans did something unexpected. They began to adapt. Though their bodies were thin and their technology outdated, they quickly studied the alien devices around them. They asked questions. They sketched diagrams. They repaired broken tools with whatever they could find. "Your people are fragile," one Delith medic remarked quietly, watching Elias struggle to stand. Elias smiled faintly. "Fragile? Maybe. But we don't break easy." A shadow over the stars. While the Delith nurtured the survivors, the galaxy watched with growing tension. The Conclave debated in secret councils. Could these ancient humans become allies? Perhaps even weapons against the Dominion? The Dominion, in turn, sent covert scouts, determined to seize or destroy this rediscovered race before they upset the balance of war. To most of the galaxy, the humans were still myths, ghosts that should have remained buried. But for the first time in ages, both fear and hope stirred together, because if the legends were true, then humanity had returned, and legends once awakened are not so easily silenced. The galaxy had not known true surprise in centuries. Wars had raged, empires had risen and fallen, and old rivalries had replayed themselves so often that little remained unknown. Every strategy, every new weapon, every tactic, each side had seen them all before. But when word spread that humans had been found alive, the galaxy was shaken. Entire councils stopped their endless arguments to listen. Traders whispered in markets. Soldiers muttered in barracks. Some laughed, some doubted, but all were curious, because humans had always been a puzzle. Legends claimed they were fragile, weaker than most species. Yet other stories painted them as dangerous because of the very same fragility. Because they fought with cunning instead of brute force, and because they never seemed to quit even when logic said they should. And now, those legends were flesh and blood again. The survivors, the Delith, gentle and patient, continued their work of awakening the humans from their long sleep. Slowly, chamber by chamber, pale faces stirred to life. Each human emerged confused, trembling, and weak, but alive. Some wept quietly when they learned how much time had passed. Others clenched their fists, refusing to accept despair. One young woman named Marin Holt asked immediately for tools. Her hands shook, but her mind was sharp. Within hours of waking, she was helping the Delith repair scanning devices, as if work was her anchor to reality. Another, Dr. Anaya Rao, insisted on examining the stasis machines themselves. "This technology kept us alive," she said firmly. "If I can understand it, then maybe I can help keep my people alive again." The DEATHWORLD scientists were astonished. They had expected broken survivors. Instead, they found problem solvers, dreamers, and fighters. Even in weakness, the humans refused to simply survive. They adapted. First contact with the Conclave. The Conclave Council, rulers of a vast coalition of species, did not wait long. They dispatched a diplomatic vessel to the DEATHWORLD where the humans were being cared for. When the massive silver ship descended, the humans stared at it in awe. Some whispered to each other, amazed at the sleek design, so far beyond what they remembered of their own ships. Captain Elias Ward, though still frail, stood tall as he and a small group were brought to meet the Conclave envoys. The envoys were towering figures with crystalline skin that shimmered in the light. They looked down at the humans with cautious curiosity. "You are human," the lead envoy said slowly, as if testing the word. Elias gave a tired smile. "Yes, and you are?" "We are of the Conclave. Long have we debated your existence. To see you breathing before us is unexpected." Elias tilted his head. "Unexpected? I'd say it's about time." The envoy's eyes gleamed. "Legends say your kind vanished. Now you return at the edge of war. Perhaps this is no coincidence." The humans exchanged uneasy looks. War. That word was familiar. Far too familiar. Doubt and dismissal despite the Conclave's interest. Not everyone believed humans had value. When recordings of their meetings spread through the Conclave's channels, many officials mocked the rediscovered species. "They are weak," sneered one general. "Their bodies are fragile. Their weapons outdated. What use are relics in modern war?" "They are survivors, nothing more," said another. Curiosities to be studied, not allies. But some were not so quick to dismiss. An older strategist named Solaric leaned forward during council debate. "You see frailty," he said quietly. "I see resilience. Look how quickly they stand, even after centuries in ice. Look how their eyes burn with questions. Do not mistake size for strength." His words planted seeds of doubt. Perhaps the legends held truth. The Dominion's response far across the stars, the Dominion also heard the news. Unlike the Conclave, they did not send envoys. They sent spies. Small ships cloaked in shadows slipped near the DEATHWORLD, watching the humans from orbit. Reports were carried back to Dominion warlords. The humans live. They awaken quickly. Their minds are sharp. The Conclave courts them. The warlords snarled at the thought. "Better to erase them now," one declared. "Crush them before they learn too much." But another cautioned, "Do not underestimate them. Even myths hold power. Destroying them may ignite sympathy. Better to wait and watch." And so Dominion eyes lingered, waiting for a weakness. The demonstration, the Conclave eventually decided to test the humans. They provided them with broken machinery from an old outpost, scrap the Conclave engineers had abandoned as useless. "If the humans are clever," one envoy said with a faint smile, "let us see them prove it." The humans accepted the challenge without complaint. For days they worked with the scraps, their hands blistered, their voices hoarse. The Delith provided food and shelter, but the labor was entirely the humans' own. Elias Ward sketched diagrams on walls with chalk. Marinhold crawled through rusted hulls, patching broken wires. Dr. Rao rebuilt circuits piece by piece, humming softly as she worked. The Conclave observers expected failure, but within weeks the humans presented a working shuttle, rebuilt from wreckage that no one else had considered salvageable. The shuttle was crude compared to Conclave ships, but it flew. It flew. The envoys were stunned. Elias, exhausted but grinning, simply said, "Where we come from, you don't throw things away. You make them work. Because survival doesn't wait for perfect tools." A shift in perception. News of the human demonstration spread quickly. Across Conclave space, people whispered in amazement. Who else could turn junk into flight? Who else could adapt so quickly after centuries of sleep? Slowly, opinions began to change. The humans were still weak, yes. Their numbers were small. But there was something undeniable about them. Something that made others lean forward, eager to see what they might do next. For the first time, hope stirred in the Conclave. Perhaps these fragile beings carried a strength no one had expected. Training and preparation. The Conclave offered the humans access to basic technology. Simple weapons, basic starship designs, training simulators. Most assumed the humans would struggle. After all, even minor species took decades to learn Conclave tech. But the humans learned quickly. They argued, debated, tested, and failed, but each failure taught them more. They reminded the Deleth of children learning to walk, except these children never gave up. Marin Holt mastered navigation systems in weeks. Dr. Rao adapted medical scanners for human biology, saving several of her people who had grown sick from the stasis recovery. Elias Ward, though still regaining his strength, focused on tactics, studying every battle record he could find. They fight wars differently, Celeric, the Conclave strategist, observed. They do not rely on numbers. They rely on creativity, on finding cracks where others see only walls. The Conclave officers began to watch the training sessions with serious eyes. Perhaps these humans were not relics after all. A new reputation, the Dominion spies carried back troubling reports. The humans adapt, they warned. They build. They learn. If left unchecked, they may become dangerous. The warlords growled in anger. Dangerous. They are ants. But the whispers could not be stopped. On border worlds, merchants told stories of fragile humans repairing ships no one else could fix. Soldiers repeated tales of humans who smiled even when exhausted. Refugees whispered that perhaps these beings of legend had returned to tip the balance of war. The galaxy, long numbed by endless conflict, began to feel something rare, curiosity mixed with hope. The Oath one night. As stars shimmered above the DEATHWORLD, Elias Ward gathered his people. Their numbers were still small, barely a few hundred, but their spirits burned bright. We cannot stay hidden, Elias told them. His voice was still rough but firm. The galaxy is changing. The Conclave will use us. The Dominion will hunt us. But we are not ghosts. We are not myths. We are human. And if we are to survive, then we must stand together and remind the stars who we are. His words struck deep. The survivors, weary but unbroken, nodded in agreement. For the first time, they felt like more than scattered remnants. They felt like a people again. The turning point, the Conclave Council met once more. The debate was fierce. Some still dismissed the humans as fragile curiosities. Others feared the Dominion would target them. But Celeric, the strategist, rose to speak. I have watched them. I have studied them. These humans are more than relics. They are fire. Small perhaps, but fire spreads. In this endless war, fire is exactly what we need. The council fell silent. And in that silence, the decision was made. The Conclave would not merely protect the humans. They would give them a chance to prove themselves in battle. The invitation. When Elias was told of the decision, he stood quietly for a long time. He looked at his people, their thin frames, their tired eyes, their unshakable determination. Then he nodded. If they want us to prove ourselves, we will. Not because they demand it, but because we must show the galaxy that humanity is not a forgotten story. We are here, and we do not fade. The Conclave officers exchanged glances. For the first time, they did not see fragile relics. They saw something else. They saw the return of humanity. The galaxy often tested new powers with fire. Sometimes the fire was political pressure. Sometimes it was betrayal. And sometimes it was war itself. For the newly awakened humans, the fire would come sooner than anyone expected. The challenge the Conclave Council had argued for weeks. Some still doubted that humans had any value beyond curiosity. Others worried that the Dominion would strike if humans were allowed to rise unchecked. Finally, a decision was reached. If the humans were to be taken seriously, they would need to prove themselves in a real battle. Celeric, the old strategist who had spoken in their defense, presented the mission. There is a world on the border, he said, his crystalline form glowing faintly in the council chamber. A small agricultural planet called Vera's Hold. The Dominion prepares to attack it. Our fleets are tied elsewhere. If the humans are as resourceful as you claim, let them hold the world. The council chamber filled with murmurs. To send a fragile, half-recovered species into battle seemed reckless. Some called it a death sentence. Others whispered that perhaps it was necessary. Better for humans to fail quickly than for the Conclave to waste resources on them. When Elias Ward heard the news, he did not flinch. You want us to defend a planet? He asked Celeric directly. Yes, Celeric answered. A Dominion fleet approaches. 3 times the strength of what we can spare. If you can hold them, the galaxy will see your worth. If not, he left the rest unspoken. Elias looked at his people. Their bodies were still thin, their technology still strange to them, but their eyes burned with the same fire he remembered from the old days. We'll take the mission, Elias said. Preparation. The humans had little to work with. The Conclave provided them with a handful of outdated frigates barely functional. They were underpowered, slow, and armed with weapons that most Conclave officers dismissed as museum pieces. But where others saw weakness, the humans saw opportunity. Marin Holt led a team of engineers who tore the frigates apart, repurposing broken systems into new configurations. They think these ships are useless, she said, her hands smeared with grease. Let's prove them wrong. Dr. Rao adapted medical bays using both Conclave technology and scraps from the old stasis machines. We will lose people, she admitted, but we will save as many as possible. That is how humanity endures. Even ordinary survivors with no training took part. Some learned navigation. Others became gunners. A few volunteered to repair ships mid-battle, risking their lives in exposed hulls. Elias spent his night studying maps of the Vera system. He traced asteroid paths, calculated orbital debris, and examined the Dominion's likely attack routes. They expect us to fight straight, he told his officers. We won't. We'll fight crooked. We'll make them think they're winning, right up until we turn the table. Arrival at Vera's hold, the humans arrived at the quiet farming world, just as its people prepared to evacuate. The colonists, tall insectoid beings with golden shells, stared in confusion at the small human fleet. These are our defenders? One asked bitterly. They will die, said another. Elias addressed them openly. We may be few, but we won't run. This world matters, and if it matters to you, then stand with us. Fight with us. The colonists hesitated, but when they saw the humans working tirelessly to set up defenses, something stirred within them. Slowly they offered supplies, scouts, and even volunteers. For the first time, the humans fought not only for themselves, but for others. The Dominion attack. The Dominion fleet arrived 3 days later. Sleek black warships filled the sky, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. The Dominion commander laughed when he saw the human fleet. These are the relics? These fragile bones wrapped in flesh? Crush them. The battle began with thunder. Dominion cruisers rained fire upon the orbital defenses. Colonists fled into shelters as explosions tore across the sky. The humans held steady. Their frigates weaved between blasts, striking quickly, then vanishing into asteroid shadows. Marin's voice rang through comms. Keep moving. Don't give them a straight shot. Elias guided his ships with calm precision. Let them chase us. Every move we make is a step into the trap. The trap. For hours, the humans fought a losing battle. Their ships were damaged, their weapons outmatched. The Dominion commander smirked, certain of victory, but then the trap closed. The humans had shifted debris fields into hidden orbits, using tractor beams and sheer determination. When the Dominion fleet pushed forward, asteroids suddenly rained down, smashing into their lines. Confusion spread. Ships collided, formations broke. Now, Elias shouted. The human frigate struck with perfect timing, targeting exposed engines and weak points. Small victories snowballed into chaos. Dominion ships burned one after another. Still, the enemy outnumbered them. The humans took heavy losses. Hulls cracked, alarms blared, and cries for medics filled the comms. But no one gave up. Every ship fought until it could no longer move. Unity and desperation. On the surface, colonists who once doubted the humans now rose to fight. Farmers wielded old rifles. Engineers turned harvest machines into weapons. Side by side with humans, they defended their homes against Dominion landing parties. Dr. Rao rushed from one shelter to another, treating wounds with hands that never stopped trembling. We save who we can, she whispered, her eyes fierce. We do not stop. Even when Dominion troops broke through, humans and colonists fought shoulder to shoulder. Fragile though they were, the humans never retreated. Their determination inspired the colonists, who fought harder than ever before. Turning the tide as the Dominion prepared a final push, Elias gambled everything. Pull back, he ordered. His officers stared in shock. Pull back and make them think we've broken. The Dominion, seeing the retreat, surged forward in triumph. They entered orbit, preparing to bombard the surface, and then the humans struck. Hidden charges planted on drifting wreckage exploded, tearing through the Dominion's front line. Colonist fighters, guided by human pilots, swarmed from the surface and attacked the enemy's rear. The Dominion fleet, once proud and unstoppable, faltered. Their commander roared in fury, but it was too late. The humans had turned the trap inside out. With one final push, the Dominion ships broke and fled. The skies above Vera's hold cleared. Aftermath silence fell. Smoke drifted from the battered human frigates. Colonists cheered as the last Dominion ship vanished into hyperspace. Elias slumped in his chair, exhausted. His fleet had taken terrible losses, but they had done the impossible. On the surface, colonists gathered around the surviving humans. Where once there had been doubt and mockery, there was now respect. "You stood for us," said one colonist, bowing. "You bled for us. You are no legend. You are real." Marin smiled weakly, her hands still stained with grease and blood. "Told you we don't break easy." The galaxy reacts when news of the battle spread. The galaxy erupted in shock. The conclave celebrated cautiously. The humans had proven themselves far beyond expectation. Celeric's words were repeated in council halls. "They are fire, small, but fire spreads." The Dominion, however, seethed with rage. To be humiliated by relics, to be forced into retreat by a handful of fragile beings, it was unthinkable. Vengeance was sworn, and in the markets, in the taverns, in the farthest corners of space, the stories began to grow. The humans, once thought to be faded myths, had faced the fire. And they had not been consumed, they had risen. The galaxy was beginning to change. Where once the humans were a forgotten myth, now they were a living story. Their victory at Vera's hold was not just a battle won, it was a statement. Small, fragile, underestimated, they had defied the odds and survived. And the whispers about them grew louder with every passing day. Rising reputation. Across conclave space, humans became a symbol. Soldiers who had once doubted them told tales of their courage. Colonists who had fought alongside them sang of their ingenuity. Even some of the conclave's rivals began to pay attention, curious about this strange race whose resilience seemed limitless. Captain Elias Ward and his officers knew the fame was double-edged. Some saw hope in the humans' return. Others saw a threat. The Dominion, humiliated at Vera, would not forgive easily. "They will come for us," Elias said quietly one evening, staring out at the stars. His face was lined with exhaustion, yet his eyes burned with determination. "And when they do, we must be ready, not just to survive, but to show the galaxy what humans are capable of." Marin Holt, standing beside him, nodded. "We've already shown them fire, now it's time to show them direction." Expanding influence, humans began to travel between star systems, offering aid where they could. They repaired ships, taught strategies, and shared knowledge with species who had once considered them irrelevant. The Delith continued to assist, providing safe passages and support. Their presence sparked a change. Worlds long weary of endless war began to rally around the humans, inspired by the courage and ingenuity they displayed. Humans were not conquerors. They did not demand tribute. They acted as allies, advisors, and protectors, and that made them all the more powerful. Even planets that had once resisted conclave rule began seeking human counsel. "If these humans can turn the tide on Vera," one governor said, "then perhaps they can help us survive too." Dominion schemes far across the galaxy, the Dominion watched the rising legend with mounting anger. Dominion commanders could not tolerate a small, fragile species challenging their supremacy. "The humans have become a symbol," one warlord growled, pacing his war room. "A single word from them can inspire entire systems to rise against us. This cannot stand." Their plan was simple: strike fast and strike hard. A massive fleet would move to destroy the human strongholds before the humans could gather allies. It was a gamble, but the Dominion saw it as the only way to crush a rising threat before it became uncontrollable. Yet the humans were not idle. They anticipated such moves, learning from every engagement, every encounter, every scrap of intelligence they could gather. The galaxy had underestimated them once. They would not make that mistake again. Building alliances, humans understood that strength was not only in numbers or weapons, but in relationships. They reached out to species who had been neutral, and even to some who had been at odds with the conclave. The insectoid colonists of Vera's hold became steadfast allies, supplying scouts and troops. Other systems, previously abandoned by major powers, sent representatives to learn from the humans. They taught survival, improvisation, and strategy. Humans were uniting worlds not through fear, but through respect. "Do they ever tire?" asked one observer from the conclave, watching humans teach, plan, and fight without pause. "Apparently not," replied Celeric, smiling faintly. "That is the human way. Even when weak, they push forward. Even when small, they move mountains." The next test it was not long before the Dominion made their move. A massive armada approached the human-controlled systems, their warships black against the stars, bristling with weapons and ready for total annihilation. The humans knew the confrontation was inevitable, but instead of panicking, they prepared with meticulous care. Scouts surveyed the incoming fleet. Engineers repaired every vessel, from the smallest shuttle to the largest frigate. Colonists prepared planetary defenses, converting mining stations and factories into fortifications. Elias stood before his officers, pointing at holographic displays of the approaching Dominion armada. "They expect us to fight like they do," he said. "Straight lines, big numbers, brute force. We will fight differently. We will strike where they do not expect. We will use the galaxy itself to our advantage." Marin Holt, ever practical, added, "They may have the ships. We have the knowledge, and more importantly, the will." Strategy in motion. The humans' plan was bold and precise. They positioned small fleets in asteroid fields and abandoned stations, using the terrain to hide their true numbers. They anticipated the Dominion's strategies, setting traps and preparing escape routes. Colonists reinforced planetary shields and constructed diversionary decoys. Even small details, like sending false communications or altering sensor readings, were carefully planned. Every element of the human strategy relied on intelligence, adaptability, and teamwork. "See that?" Elias said to his officers. "Every move is a message, every tactic a story. They will think they know our plan. Then we will show them we do not fight like anyone else." The battle begins. The Dominion fleet arrived and the humans were ready. Dominion warships descended upon human-held planets, confident in their superiority. But humans and their allies were not where the Dominion expected. Frigates struck from unexpected angles. Asteroids crushed capital ships. Planetary defenses activated in perfect synchronization, catching the invaders off guard. The Dominion commander's fury was visible even through communications. These humans, they fight like shadows. And indeed, the humans were everywhere and nowhere. Their fleet moved unpredictably, striking hard then vanishing into the void, leaving confusion and chaos in their wake. Inspiring allies, humans fought alongside colonists and allied species, their bravery inspiring everyone around them. Ordinary colonists who had once feared war now held their ground. Engineers repaired guns and ships mid-battle. Scientists rerouted energy to weapons just in time to repel Dominion attacks. Dr. Anaya Rao directed medical teams in orbiting stations, saving countless lives even while explosions shook the hulls. Every act of courage, every decision, amplified the human example. Survival required creativity, courage, and unity. The Dominion fleet, though larger and more powerful, began to falter under this unorthodox resistance. Their formation broke, their attacks grew disorganized. Turning the tide, Elias seized the moment. Using knowledge gathered from scouting missions, humans and allies launched a counterattack. Small squadrons targeted the Dominion's engines and weapons, while hidden charges disrupted their fleet from within. The Dominion was forced to retreat, not entirely destroyed but humiliated once again. The humans had taken an impossible situation and turned it to their advantage. On each planet and station the people cheered. Humans, once mere legends, had become leaders, organizers, and symbols of hope. The impact word of the victory spread faster than any message could travel. Across the galaxy, species who had long felt powerless began to see a different path. Perhaps there was a way to survive without bowing to the largest powers. Perhaps ingenuity, courage, and cooperation could defy brute force. Solaric addressed the Conclave Council, his tone quiet but firm. You see them now. The humans are no longer stories. They are a force. Not just because of strength, but because they inspire others to fight alongside them. Even some Dominion commanders began to whisper doubts. The humans, they realized, were not just warriors. They were a movement, capable of uniting species in ways the Dominion could never predict. A new confidence Elias stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the scattered remnants of the Dominion fleet. They will come again, he said quietly. And next time they will bring more. But so will we. And every time they underestimate us, they learn too late what humans can do. Marin Holt placed a hand on his shoulder. We've already changed the galaxy once. Imagine what we can do if we keep moving. Elias smiled faintly. Then let's make sure the galaxy remembers. Not as myths, not as legends, but as humans. Alive, strong, and unstoppable. Moving forward, the humans' reputation continued to grow. Every small victory, every act of courage, strengthened their presence in the galaxy. Worlds once ignored by the major powers now looked to them for guidance. Colonists, scouts, engineers, and scientists flocked to their banners. The Dominion watched, frustrated and fearful. The Conclave celebrated cautiously, realizing that the humans were becoming more than allies. They were a symbol that could reshape the balance of power itself. And the humans themselves? They moved forward quietly, methodically, prepared for the challenges ahead. They did not seek glory or conquest. They sought survival, cooperation, and above all the chance to show the galaxy that humanity had returned, not as a faded legend, but as a force in motion. The galaxy was at a turning point. After the humans' remarkable victories at Vera's Hold and other border skirmishes, the balance of power began to shift. The Dominion, once confident in their superiority, now regarded the humans with a mixture of fear and frustration. Every failed attack, every unexpected counterattack, had taught them one undeniable truth. Humans were not to be underestimated. The Conclave, meanwhile, watched carefully, unsure how far this fledgling species could go, but recognizing the undeniable potential of their ingenuity, courage, and unshakable spirit. And in the middle of it all, the humans themselves moved forward with clarity and determination, guided by a single principle: survival through cooperation, courage, and cunning. The Dominion's final push, the Dominion warlords, humiliated by repeated defeats, decided to make one decisive move. They would gather their greatest fleets, their most powerful warships, and strike the human-controlled systems with overwhelming force. The humans inspire hope, one warlord snarled, and hope is dangerous. It must be destroyed. The plan was simple in theory: annihilate the humans before their influence could spread further, then reclaim the systems they had begun to unite. What the Dominion did not anticipate was that humans had already learned from their previous battles. They did not fight like anyone else. The call to arms Captain Elias Ward called a council with his officers and the Allied leaders who had joined the humans since Vera's Hold. The Dominion will come, Elias said quietly but firmly. They think numbers and firepower will win. But we've proven before that the galaxy does not bend to numbers alone. We must fight smart, together, and unyielding. Marin Holt leaned over a star map projected in the middle of the council room. We can't take the fight to every planet at once, she said, but we can use their confidence against them. We can divide their fleets, slow them down, and turn each attack into a trap. Dr. Anaya Rao added, we will also need medical teams ready everywhere. People will be injured. Ships will be damaged. If we protect our people, our allies will fight with even more courage. Elias nodded. Exactly. And we'll show the galaxy that humans do not just survive. We lead, we inspire, and we endure. Preparation and coordination. Over the next weeks, the humans worked tirelessly. Fleets were repaired and modified. Planets were fortified. Colonists trained alongside soldiers, learning how to defend their homes. Engineers turned mining stations into defensive fortresses. Scientists created diversionary drones to mislead the Dominion. Every human and ally participated, no matter how small or weak. Even children on colonized worlds contributed by operating communications networks, scouting enemy movements, and keeping morale high. The humans understood that strength was not measured in firepower alone but in coordination, creativity, and the will to fight. The battle begins when the Dominion Armada finally arrived. It was massive, a black storm of warships spanning light years. They were confident, expecting an easy victory, but the humans had prepared. Ships waited in hidden locations, planetary defenses were ready, and Allied fleets moved in synchronized patterns, striking the Dominion's flanks while avoiding their main power. The Dominion commander's voice came over communications, haughty and confident. "Humans, this is your end. You cannot survive against us. Surrender and your people will be spared." Elias smiled grimly. "We do not surrender. We do not break. And we do not fight like you expect." With that, the battle erupted. Unconventional tactics. The humans fought in ways that the Dominion could not predict. They used abandoned asteroids as shields, creating narrow passages where the enemy fleet could not maneuver easily. They deployed decoy ships to mislead the Dominion's targeting systems. Frigates darted in and out, striking key engines, communication hubs, and weapon systems, then disappearing before counterattacks could reach them. Colonial forces supported the humans from the surface, firing artillery from mountains, hidden valleys, and orbital stations. Even civilians participated in small but crucial roles, demonstrating an unwavering will to survive and protect their homes. "This is madness," muttered a Dominion officer, watching their largest warship being disabled by a few small human frigates and hidden orbital cannons. "How can so few fight so effectively?" "Because humans are not like us," the commander admitted reluctantly. "They fight with courage and they fight together." Turning the tide hours passed with relentless intensity. Dominion fleets attacked, expecting the humans to crumble. But with each failed attack, their formation weakened. Then Elias ordered the next phase of his plan. Hidden charges on derelict stations detonated, slicing through the Dominion's command ships. Allied fleets attacked from unexpected directions. Colonists launched orbital counterattacks coordinated perfectly with human maneuvers. The Dominion commander, once confident, now struggled to maintain order. Chaos spread through their fleet. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and morale plummeted. The humans and their allies, small in number but united in spirit and strategy, began turning each moment of confusion into a decisive advantage. Heroic sacrifice. No victory comes without cost. Several human ships were destroyed. Colonist troops fell defending key positions. Marin Holt barely escaped a collapsing orbital station, and Dr. Rao worked tirelessly to save the wounded. Elias stood on the bridge of the flagship, issuing orders even as alarms screamed around him. "Hold the line. Every person matters. Do not give them an inch." Through courage, sacrifice, and careful strategy, the humans maintained cohesion, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Their ability to inspire others, adapt quickly, and think creatively made all the difference. Dominion retreat. As the battle reached its peak, Dominion forces realized they could not win. Their largest warships were crippled, command disrupted, and morale shattered. The commander issued a retreat, ordering surviving ships to fall back to regroup. The humans and their allies did not pursue recklessly, but their tactical maneuvers ensured the Dominion would not recover easily. For the first time in decades, a Dominion fleet had been defeated decisively, not through sheer power but through strategy, courage, and the unbreakable human spirit, victory and recognition. On each planet, human allies celebrated. Survivors cheered, colonists rejoiced, and even weary soldiers felt hope. Celeric, observing from the Conclave command station, spoke quietly to fellow council members. "They are no longer just a species. They are a movement. They unite others not through fear, but through inspiration. That is why the galaxy will remember them." Captain Elias Ward, standing among his people on a repaired frigate, watched the stars. They were scarred from battle, yes. Weary, yes, but alive, and stronger than ever. "We did it," Marin said softly, leaning against the railing. "No," Elias replied, eyes on the horizon. "We survived. We endured. And we've shown the galaxy that humans are more than myths. We are real, and we are here to stay." The galaxy changes. After the battle, the galaxy began to shift. Worlds once ruled by fear started seeking alliances with humans. Species long ignored by major powers gained hope. The Conclave recognized that humans were no longer simply allies. They were catalysts for unity, courage, and innovation. Even the Dominion, though defeated, began to reconsider their approach. They could no longer rely on intimidation or sheer numbers alone. Humans had changed the rules of the game. The stories of humans spread far and wide, not as legends, not as whispers, but as living proof that courage, determination, and cleverness could defy even the mightiest foes. A legacy of Hope Captain Elias, Ward gathered his officers one last time before moving to coordinate with allies in distant sectors. "The galaxy will always test us," he said. "But we have learned something important. Humans do not give up. Humans do not surrender. And humans, even when small, can make the impossible happen." Marinholt smiled. "Then we keep moving. We help where we can. We fight where we must. And we show everyone that humanity has returned, stronger than ever." Dr. Rao nodded. "The galaxy will remember us not as myths, but as humans who stood, fought, and inspired others to stand beside us." Elias looked at his people, at the allies they had gathered, at the worlds they had saved. Legends can fade, stories can be forgotten, but actions endure. And today, humanity's actions will echo across the stars for centuries to come. The humans had proven themselves not through raw power, but through determination, creativity, and the unyielding will to protect and inspire. The galaxy had witnessed it all, and so the faded myths of humanity had become living truth. No longer whispers, no longer relics, they were alive. They were real, and they would never be forgotten again.